Welcome back, everyone. If a person was to ask for a list of Muhammad's teachings that haven't aged well, near the top of that very long list would be adult breastfeeding. In some ways, this is a unique Islamic contribution to the broader topic of milk kinship, which is a type of fosterage that posits a familial relationship between two people nursed by the same woman. The relationship established by milk kinship is treated like a blood relationship. Thus, the Quran says, "Forbidden to you, men, are a whole bunch of women, including your sisters, by nursing." Now, I have to admit, I have no idea what the Quran means when it refers to sisters by nursing. Thankfully, we can turn to some of the most entertaining sources ever written to find the answer. It's well known because if you've heard this once, you'll never forget it, that Muhammad smiled as he told a woman to breastfeed an adult man to create a foster relationship, making them like family. Let's skip to the part we all remember. She said, "How can I breastfeed him when he is a grown man?" The Messenger of Allah smiled and said, "I know he is a grown man." If you have trouble finding this hadith, just look under the chapter heading, Breastfeeding and Adult. The Muhammad of the Hadith and the Muhammad of the Quran have this in common. They were not very original, and so, in the same way the hearers of the Quran said, "It's just old tales," readers of the Hadith also easily detect the influence of pre-Islamic sources. Yes, that's even true when it comes to breastfeeding adults. Milk, while vital for infant survival, is not generally presented by Pliny as an appropriate substance for adult nutrition, but rather as a medicine. Galen and Dioscorides similarly recommended the consumption of breast milk by adults for its curative powers, even suckled directly from the breast. Ah yes, Galen and ancient Greek medicine. That probably rings a bell, one of the instruments of Satan, because if you've watched this channel before, then you're probably familiar with the various ways that ideas from these ancient Greek medical texts made it into the Islamic sources. Anthropologist Peter Parks comments there, referring to early Arab nursing manuals, "We find that breast milk was invariably treated as a refinement of uterine blood, supposedly conveyed by veins linking the womb to a woman's breasts, so that a newborn child would continue to receive its sanguineous maternal nurture in a more purified form after birth." Arab nursing manuals also contained detailed guidelines on the prudent selection of an appropriate milk mother in view of widespread beliefs that her congenital dispositions of character would be conveyed through her breast milk. The legitimation of milk kinship in Islamic law therefore always needed to accommodate this physiological premise that breast milk was female blood. Parks adds, "What we've covered on this channel before, Arab nursing manuals were doubtlessly influenced by Aristotle and Galen. To this, of course, we would add the Hadith, which formed the basis for these nursing manuals." We've even done a video showing how these absurd beliefs about breastfeeding, which bear the stamp of Muhammad's approval, are causing harm among children in some Muslim lands today. And that reminds me, Muslims, you really need to drop those stupid arguments about the scientific miracles of Islam. They are among the dumbest developments in Islamic apologetics in the 20th century. Just stop. Anyway, this brings us to our first problem, the problem of borrowing. Breastfeeding, yes, even breastfeeding an adult is attested to in pre-Islamic sources, but it's not just a single, simple parallel. Breastfeeding adults is part of a larger collection of ideas about pregnancy, about embryology, and human reproduction. These ideas were imported into the Muslim sources, enabled in part by the Greco-Arabic translation movement, which began around 750 AD. The Hadith authors borrowed and borrowed and borrowed. The borrowed material went from Greek medicine to authoritative Islamic tradition via the lips of the Muhammad of the Hadith. Certainly on this topic, among others, we should just assume the Hadith authors are guilty of borrowing, guilty until proven otherwise. Now, the problem of borrowing raises a second problem. Why does breastfeeding have anything to do with fosterage? What's the connection? You have enough information in this video already to approximate an answer, and certainly from other videos that we've done to answer the question fully. Bodily fluids in ancient thought were very closely associated. Sometimes one fluid was thought to be another fluid, transformed or slightly modified. According to this thinking, blood and breast milk were variations of the same fluid. So you can see how breastfeeding would have been thought to create some sort of a foster or a blood relationship. Or as the Encyclopedia of Islam puts it in an entry on suckling, it was thought that there inhered in breast milk some quality similar to that residing in blood. That was what underlay the ban created by the act of nursing, and it was, therefore, of necessity, implicated in its legal consequences. But of course, we know now that's not how the human body works. But Galen didn't know that, the ancient Greeks didn't know that, so Allah and Muhammad didn't know that. We'll return to this point later, moving on to the next point. The only way this could get any better is if the verses about breastfeeding an adult were in today's standardized Quran. No, wait, the only way this could get any better was if the verse about breastfeeding an adult was in one of the early Qurans, but then got eaten by a sheep. Well, here's a plot twist. The verse of stoning and of breastfeeding an adult 10 times was revealed, and the paper was with me under my pillow when the Messenger of Allah died. We were preoccupied with his death, and a tame sheep came in and ate it. Some of you may be familiar with the common English expression, "my dog ate my homework." It's a lame, stereotypical excuse for not turning in schoolwork on time. Allah thought of that one first. But if we were to reconstruct Allah's missing homework assignment, we would know that it had been revealed in the Holy Quran that 10 clear sucklings make the marriage unlawful. Then it was abrogated and substituted by 5 sucklings, and Allah's apostle died, and it was before that time found in the Holy Quran and recited by Muslims. This hadith is absolutely fascinating. People had figured out this milk kinship thing on their own a long time before Islam. Then comes Allah and the Quran, and he can't even decide how many sucklings are required to establish kinship. To make it worse, recall our previous point. This is not how the human body works anyway. Being indecisive about how many sucklings are required is completely absurd because sucklings make no difference. This is like saying, I have to drink 10 glasses of water to fix my sprained ankle. No, wait, I'll change that. 5 glasses. There's no connection. But anyway, we see from these hadiths that the 10 sucklings verse was eaten and then abrogated by the 5 sucklings verse, which also isn't in today's Quran. If anyone knows what happened to the 5 sucklings verse, please let me know. My own theory is that it was buried with Muhammad, but that's just my speculation. It would be nice to find that verse, though, because according to some scholars, it could be as little as 3 sucklings. That could save a lot of time. Some Shia scholars, though, who apparently want to leave no room for error, said 15 sucklings were required. My personal opinion, just do 20. Better safe than sorry. In addition to the problem of borrowing, the misconceptions about the human body, the missing verse of 5 sucklings, and the uncertain number of required sucklings, we get to the related problems of age, method, and modern issues. Please recall the last part of the quote I showed you. For most legal scholars, the nursing has to occur within the first 2 to 3 years of the child's life. But Muhammad wasn't most legal scholars, and when he borrowed from prior sources, he often added his own signature touch, in this case, a smile. In response to the question, how can I suckle him as he is a grown-up man, Allah's messenger smiled and said, I already know he's a young man. Most people breastfeed children and marry adults. In Islam, you can breastfeed adults and marry children. Now, I know this video sucks. Thanks for keeping abreast with me so far as we milk this topic for all it's worth. As a reward, if you stick around, you may see what Muhammad's smile looked like on this very video. Hopefully that fosters enough curiosity to keep you going. One brief note on the issue of age. When you read about maximum age limits for suckling, don't think that's out of some concern for decency necessarily. That's because there are several hadith, and this is going to sound weird, like everything else in this video. There are some hadith that talk about wives breastfeeding their female slaves out of jealousy to keep their husbands from sleeping with the female slaves. This is a really clever move by the jealous wife because the Quran allows men to have sex with female slaves, but not if they've been suckled by their wives. A man came to Umar bin al-Khattab and said, I have a slave girl, and I used to have intercourse with her. My wife went to her and suckled her. When I went to the girl, my wife told me to watch out, because she had suckled her. Umar told him to beat his wife, and to go to his slave girl, because kinship by suckling was only by the suckling of the young. It turns out the wife's plan wasn't so smart after all. She breastfed the female slave in vain. Umar therefore enables the husband to continue having sex with the female slave, much to the chagrin of his wife, because he declared suckling only applies to the young. Smart move, Umar. So let's just pause for a second, go back and read that hadith again, and reflect on how repulsive this religion is. I have a slave girl, and I used to have intercourse with her. My wife went to her and suckled her. When I went to the girl, my wife told me to watch out because she had suckled her. Umar told him to beat his wife and to go to his slave girl because kinship by suckling was only by the suckling of the young. Sleeping with your slave girl, explicitly allowed by the Quran. Beating your wife, explicitly allowed by the Quran. Umar is telling this man what to do directly in accordance with the Quran based on these absolutely stupid traditions in the Hadith. Just to be comprehensive, let's talk about the age of the woman who's doing the breastfeeding. One requirement held among esteemed Islamic scholars is that the milk has to come from a female at least 9 years old, whether it's occasioned by sexual intercourse or something else. I mean, where else can you get 9-year-old and sexual intercourse in such close proximity? Let's move on to the next issue involving method. Muhammad told a woman to breastfeed an adult man. There's no way around it by claiming that what he meant was to use a cup or something else. All of the Muslim apologetic talking points on this issue are anticipated and thoroughly refuted by Blackjack in his Islam Issue blog post, and that is in the pinned comments. So all you Muslim trolls out there who repeat the same talking points, just save yourself some time and read the responses to your comments on that blog before you even write them. So let's move on to some other modern issues. Watching Muslims talk about this stuff on YouTube is hilarious.
And the third view is the view of those ulama who hold the view that is balanced. They say that the default rule, the asl, is that it's haram for a man to suckle and there to be a mahram connection after the age of 2, or those ulama say 2.5. But it's permissible for a woman to suckle a man beyond the age of 2 or 2.5 if there is a need and a necessity.
But what really constitutes a need or a necessity for a woman to breastfeed an adult man? Selamat bacon mahi mahi bear. Selamat bacon mahi mahi barracuda. You've reached 666. What is your Muslim emergency? Wife number 3 needs to be alone with a grown man. All right. Oh yeah, that's why you call. That's what we do here. Advice right from the Sunnah. Okay. Need a stoner. Yeah. That's it. Pretty simple. Yep, just stoner. All right. Anything else I can do for you? Wait. Are you still there? It's on the wrong page. It's not the stoning thing. That's for something else. Oh my. She needs to breastfeed him. Yeah, she needs to breastfeed him. No, it definitely says breastfeed. Yeah, full contact. The mouth needs to be just right on the, yeah. That's right. 10 times. No. 5 times. Yeah, 5 times. It's still a lot. Yeah. Yeah, the stoning thing would be a kind of a tidier option in that sense. Yeah, I know. You mentioned it. Yeah, I know he's a grown man. Oh, yeah. How old is she? Okay, she needs to be at least 9 to suckle him per the Sharia. Well, that's great. birthday coming up next week. Just, just hold off until then. So, yeah. And if something happens, between them, there's always the stoning option. So that'll work out fine. That's right. Well, just try to remember that Allah's given you other wives and slave girls as well. So if things start to go sour, He has more than taken care of your private parts, my friend, both in this life and the next. Just, it's plenty. That's right. Okay. Anything else I can do for you? All right. Yeah, no problem. Inshallah, just follow that advice. Everything will work out just fine. All right, my friend. All right, bye.
But it's permissible for a woman to suck on a man.
Also, in some more interesting modern issues, check out the link in the pinned comment to see what happened at the prestigious University of Al Azhar when that idiot professor tried to enforce some of these idiotic traditions from the Sunnah. In summary, Allah and Muhammad borrowed from ancient Greek medicine to conclude that milk is effectively transformed blood, meaning that breastfeeding creates kinship. This is wrong, but Allah still deliberated over 10 versus 5 sucklings and more according to other traditions. Allah's indecisiveness over a completely incoherent misconception about the human body was recited, written down, consumed, digested, and expelled through the butt end of a sheep, presumably coming softly to rest on a pile of manure, where it was left to decompose, never to be found again. And finally, Islam still allows breastfeeding adults today because Muhammad said so. However, if your wife tries the breastfeeding thing on a female slave, you can beat her for it and have sex with a slave girl anyway. So does that all make sense? I sincerely hope so. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. I know he's a grown man.
He's a grown man. I know he's a grown man. He's got a beard and everything. He's a grown man. All right. That's right. He's a grown man.